In this video, we're going to consider a response to a recent video posted by the fundamentalist apologist Alyssa Childers. In her video, I think it's like the title is Can You Be Gay and Christian? She, in the first minute or so, takes this view that sexuality as such and sexual attraction is not innate to what it is to be human, which I'm going to argue is interestingly a quasi-Gnostic view, not an Orthodox Christian opinion at all. So it just shows the degree of confusion that she has. However, that then feeds into the second clip where she's going to argue that you should think about being gay as quote unquote a lifestyle that you can choose to change, just like you can choose to stop eating refined flour or drinking alcohol. You can just change that, and by will, you can just change being gay. And that's going to flow out from what she said. So we're gonna look at those two different clips. First, the first one I mentioned, and I'll offer criticism of it, and then we'll go on to the second.
Question that I wanted to cover was a question that a sweet young lady came up and asked me at the last conference I was at. And she said it like this. She said, "Can gay people be Christians?" And I really appreciated her question. And what I recognized was she was from the younger generation, and a lot of people in that younger generation have sort of adopted this view that your sexuality is your core identity and it's something that's innate within you, that it is who you are. And so there's a lot of confusion when the question gets asked, can gay people be Christian? Because what the younger generation and many people who have bought into these ideas that frankly come from Freud, who taught that your sexuality is your core identity, we've sort of bought into that. What they're thinking is that being gay is something that's fixed. It's who you are. And so I think what they're thinking is that if you become a Christian, you bring that with you. That's still your identity. Whereas we know biblically that everyone who's in Christ is a new creation. So
Fully Gnostic view would be a view that says human beings naturally are disembodied. We are souls, and our embodiment, our physicality, and our sexual, physical embodied being is something that we leave behind as a husk when we become the disembodied souls that we were supposed to be from the beginning. That would be a full-on Gnosticism. Childers is not arguing that, but she's arguing something along those lines, a quasi-Gnosticism in which sexuality is not innate to who we are and sexual attraction is not innate to who we are, uh, so that you can leave that behind. And that's going to become key later in the video when she proposes the possibility of gay people becoming heterosexual. But let's leave that aside for the moment. One interesting thing that then follows from that is that being heterosexual is also not core to your identity. If you are heterosexual, it's not somehow really innate and essential to what it is to be a human being. And what Childers then ends up by implication endorsing is a view that human beings in the eschaton become asexual in some way. We become non-sexual beings. And I would argue that that is a kind of Gnosticism or quasi-Gnosticism, because what it ends up doing is falling into this classic sort of Augustinian error of treating sexuality as such, not just as fallen and disordered to some degree, but sexuality as such as part of the fall, part of something that is not core to our identity, something that we need to leave behind. Sexuality itself is part of the fall. And that is quasi-Gnostic. Now, it is important to note that Childers could have argued against being gay and Christian by saying being heterosexual is innate and core to your identity, not homosexual. And so homosexual is a deviation from that to which you were called and ordered to be. She could have argued that position without falling into a trap of a quasi-Gnosticism. And then I would have my own critiques and comments of that perspective. But the perspective she has endorsed in this video is a ham-fisted quasi-Gnosticism about the human person and human sexuality. Um, and incredibly, she argues that to believe that sexuality is innate and core to our identity rather than just being part of the fall, she argues that's Freudian. No, that's Orthodox Christianity. to believe that sexuality is part of innately what it is to be human. So that's my comments on that first part of the video. Now let's go to the second part of the video.
And so, for the person that might experience feelings of same sex attraction, I've known people who came out of a gay lifestyle, trusted in Christ, and God completely changed their feelings on that. And then they ended up getting married in a biblical marriage and even becoming parents. And then
Now, first of all, this term that evangelicals love, the gay lifestyle, is maddening. What is the gay lifestyle? I know many gay people, and they all have different lifestyles, just like I know many heterosexual people, and they all have different lifestyles. It's a very odd term. But then note that Childers follows on and then now ties in her comments. This is later in the video. She ties in those comments to the earlier portion by suggesting, well, because sexuality is not innate, you can change it, then you can, in principle, cease to be gay and become straight if you try hard enough. And that's what she holds out. Now, she immediately then goes on and says, but some people don't have success there. So I will concede that she says that. But nonetheless, she holds out this idea that if you just work hard enough and have enough effort, you can actually change and become heterosexual rather than being same-sex attracted. I mean, no, first of all, this is just the evidence does not bear this out. Um, we have all you have to do is look up the history of Exodus International. Oh, I don't know what, 15 years ago now, 10, 15 years ago, they issued an apology that their whole idea of reparative therapy and this promise of being able to change gay people, make them straight, was an unmitigated failure and something for which they repented and which they recognized they had only caused great misery to the gay community by pushing these ideas. And yet, these false ideas of reparative therapy or conversion therapy, the one place where you still find them being pushed is with fundamentalists like Alyssa Childers. And all they're doing is holding out a lot of heartache and frustration for gay people who are taught these false ideas. Now, is it possible that gay people can become straight? I mean, first of all, if you believe in God's omnipotent, God can do anything, then in principle, yeah, anything's possible. And I mean, interestingly, there have been cases where people have undergone, um, hold on, let me just look an example up of what I'm going to share. Okay, so we do have cases like this one. The stroke had turned me gay. This was published back in 2012 by the BBC. I've read these cases like this one where a person undergoes a stroke and then they go from being heterosexual to same-sex attracted. So there are cases like that out there. But there's no evidence to support the idea that reparative therapy or conversion therapy works to make gay people straight. And so, what Childers does in this 5 minute short video is she teaches, first of all, this quasi Gnostic view that you can change your innate sexual attractions, and then holds that out as a promise for gay people to change their lifestyle by moving from being gay to being straight. Now, I would ask all the heterosexual people out there, try to imagine through really hard work, you could make yourself gay. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. I mean, it's like trying to climb a mountain to get to the moon. Right? These are just two different things. And to hold out conversion or reparative therapy is just going to pile more frustration and misery and pain upon the beleaguered gay community. So, whatever else you think about the gay community, don't push these false, discredited views about conversion therapy and don't present and promote quasi-Gnostic views about the human person. And that's all that Alyssa Childers does in this video.